There are days you remember because they bring joy, birthdays, graduations, quiet mornings filled with laughter. And then there are days you remember because they slice you open, leaving scars you spend a lifetime tracing with trembling fingers. The day my father asked my mother to leave her own home, that was the day everything broke. I remember the smell of rain that morning. The sky hung low and heavy, like it, too, was bracing for something awful. I was 29, living 2 cities away, but I had come home for a surprise visit. Mom loved surprises. Dad used to pretend he didn't, but secretly he did. Or so I thought. When I walked into the house, the silence struck me first. Our home was never silent. My mother hummed when she cooked, my father whistled off-key tunes, and the television or radio was always buzzing in one room or another. But that day, there was nothing. Not even footsteps. I found Mom sitting at the dining table, the same mahogany one we'd eaten at for decades. She was motionless, hands folded in her lap, eyes staring at the empty chair across from her, Dad's chair. Her face looked drained, waxy, almost fragile. Fear crawled up my spine. "Mom?" I whispered. She didn't answer. Her shoulders shook, once, twice. And then she broke. "I'm being replaced, Claire." Those were her exact words. Not, "Your father is leaving me." Not, "Our marriage is over." Just that. "I'm being replaced." And that's when Dad walked in. He didn't look sad. He didn't look guilty. He looked irritated, as if we were inconveniencing him. "Edith," he said, voice firm, clipped. "We talked about this." Mom flinched. I turned to him with a confusion so sharp it felt like drowning. "What is going on?" Dad sighed like a man who had been asked to explain something tedious. "Your mother and I are divorcing." I stared at him, then at her, then back at him. Divorcing? After 37 years? Mom closed her eyes. "Dad, what are you talking about?" He folded his arms. And then the words that would haunt me for the rest of my life came tumbling out. "I'm moving on, Claire. I'm starting fresh. I've met someone who understands me, someone younger, someone who—" "God, Jake," Mom whispered. "Stop." But he didn't stop. Dad never stopped when he thought he was right. "She deserves a chance. Sabrina and I." "Sabrina?" I hissed. "Your secretary? The woman younger than your own daughters?" His jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. Instead, he delivered the final blow with an indifference so cold it burned. "Edith will be leaving the house by Friday." Everything slowed. Mom's breath hitched. The room seemed to twist. I felt myself go numb. "This house," I whispered. "Her house? The house she built with you? You're telling her to leave?" He shrugged. "As part of the settlement." I nearly laughed. It wasn't funny, but my brain was choking on disbelief. "You're kicking Mom out in 3 days," I said. 3 days. "You can help her pack," he replied calmly. The cruelty was so casual. It felt unreal. Mom spoke then, quietly, brokenly. "Jake, I loved you. I stood by you through every bad investment, every illness, every disappointment. I put you through law school. I raised our daughters. I looked after your mother until her dying breath. And this is what I get." Dad's mouth twitched, as if a flicker of guilt tried to surface. But Sabrina's name must have shoved it back down. "You'll be fine, Edith. You're strong. You always have been." It was the most cowardly compliment I'd ever heard. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake him. I wanted to break something, anything. But Mom, strangely, looked calm. Not peaceful, just still. Like the eye of the storm. "All right," she whispered. "I'll go." My father nodded once, satisfied. And that's when I realized. He truly believed she would walk away quietly. He truly believed he had won. He didn't know my mother at all. Not yet. If you've never watched your mother pack up her life in cardboard boxes while her heart bleeds in silence, consider yourself lucky. For the next 3 days, Mom moved through the house like a ghost. Not crying, not raging, not begging. Just quietly fading. I stayed with her, of course. My sister, Lily, flew in from Chicago the same evening she heard the news. But no matter how much we tried to comfort her, Mom kept her pain tucked inside her chest like a secret she wasn't ready to share. Every room we entered carried memories we didn't know how to hold. The living room where we'd put up our first Christmas tree. The kitchen where Dad used to lift us up to steal cookie dough. The study where Mom typed Dad's reports late into the night, back when his law office was just a tiny rented space downtown. And the bedroom, she couldn't pack that room alone. I'll never forget the moment we opened the closet. Half of Dad's clothes were gone. Already moved. Already hanging in another woman's house. Another woman's life. Mom's fingers trembled as she touched the empty hangers. "I should have known," she whispered. But she hadn't. None of us had. She swallowed hard, then gave a weak smile. "Girls, help me with the dresses. I can't. If I stop to think, I won't move at all." So we folded dresses, wrapped picture frames, labeled boxes, and tried not to drown in the memories. On the first day, Mom sorted through her belongings with mechanical precision. She kept the essentials and left the rest. She didn't want anything that reminded her of him. Not the anniversary china set. Not the glass penguin he bought her after their first big fight. Not the silver necklace from their 20th year together. "Mom," I said softly, "you don't have to throw everything away." She gave me a faint smile. "I'm not throwing it away. I'm setting it free. I don't need symbols of promises he didn't keep." Her voice cracked just a little. Lily cried quietly behind her hands. I didn't cry. I couldn't. My anger was too hot, too sharp. Dad had always been flawed, yes. He worked too much, apologized too little, avoided uncomfortable emotions like they were poison. But he loved Mom, didn't he? At least I thought he did. And somehow, in some twisted way, that belief made the betrayal hurt more. The movers arrived early, two polite young men who didn't ask questions. They boxed everything quickly, efficiently, and without judgment. Mom thanked them repeatedly, her voice soft and warm, even though her eyes looked dead tired. At one point, Lily grabbed my wrist. "This isn't right," she whispered fiercely. "She built this house. She raised us in it. She kept it alive." "I know," I said. "We should fight it." "I know." "Then why aren't we?" "Because we couldn't. Dad's lawyers were brutal, expensive, and relentless. And Sabrina wanted the house. She wanted every inch of my mother's life." Something changed on the third day. Mom wasn't crying anymore. She wasn't dazed. She wasn't broken. She was calm, still sad. How could she not be? But there was a quiet clarity in her eyes that hadn't been there before. A steadiness. A focus. While Lily and I loaded the last of the boxes into Mom's car, she stayed inside for a long time. Longer than expected. We called out to her. She said she was doing a final sweep. I didn't think much of it. But when she came out, she had a faint, mysterious smile. Not happiness. Not bitterness. Just something. She kissed our foreheads, locked the front door gently, almost lovingly, and whispered, "Goodbye, my home. Thank you." We drove away, leaving behind everything we had known for our entire childhood. Dad and Sabrina moved in that evening. They didn't even wait a day. I remember seeing Sabrina's Instagram story the next morning, smirking in my mother's kitchen, sitting on my mother's bar stool, sipping from a mug my sister made in second grade art class. Her caption read, "Fresh start with my man. New beginnings," with 2 heart emojis. I nearly threw my phone across the room. Mom saw it too. She only said, "Let her decorate the shell. She thinks she won something." There was something in her tone I didn't understand yet. Not anger, not defeat. Something else. Something like anticipation. 3 days later, Dad called us. I put him on speaker so Mom and Lily could hear. His voice sounded strained. "Claire, is your mother there?" Mom raised an eyebrow. "I'm here, Jake." Silence. A long, uncomfortable silence. Then, "Edith, did you notice any strange smell before you left?" Mom blinked once. Slowly. "No." "Why?" Dad exhaled sharply. "The house, there's a smell. We've cleaned everything. Everything. But it's getting worse. Sabrina shrieked something in the background. Mom put a hand over her mouth, pretending to be thoughtful, though I saw the faintest curve of a smile. "Oh dear," she said sweetly. "I'm sorry to hear that. Do you know what it could be?" he pressed. Mom shook her head with exaggerated innocence. "No idea, Jake. Houses do have memories, you know. Maybe it just needs time." He growled something under his breath.
"But Mom?"
She looked peaceful for the first time in days. That night, after Dad's panicked call ended, I finally saw the spark in Mom's eyes. It wasn't the spark of revenge, no, not yet. It was the spark of a woman remembering who she was. A woman who had survived worse. A woman who had fought harder battles. A woman who had given 37 years of her soul and refused to let her story end in victimhood. She sat beside me, her voice soft but steady. "Claire, you don't have to worry about me." "How can I not?" "Because," she said, brushing my cheek gently, "some betrayals destroy you. Others? They set you free. And I don't think your father realizes which one he gave me." I frowned. "What do you mean?" She smiled faintly and leaned back into the couch. "I mean," she whispered, "I'm done crying." And in her eyes, for the first time since the nightmare began, I saw something new. Strength, calm, purpose. And right beneath it, simmering like a secret flame, the beginning of a plan. There are certain smells you never forget. Fresh bread, pine forests after rain, your mother's favorite perfume. And then, there are smells that cling to your nightmares. What happened in that house, Dad and Sabrina's fresh start, became the latter. But the story didn't begin with horror. It began with denial. Dad didn't call again for 3 days. We only heard from him indirectly, through neighbors and, embarrassingly, through Sabrina's social media. She posted a photo of herself lounging by the living room window, captioned, "Ugh, this house has a weird smell. Probably old pipes. Nothing a deep clean can't fix." Several laughing emojis. Several comments telling her to air it out, babe. Mom saw it. She stirred her tea slowly and murmured,
"Poor child.
She thinks bleach can fix everything." I didn't understand what she meant.
Not yet.
By the end of the week, the tone of Sabrina's posts changed. The filters changed too, from bright golden hues to dull indoor lighting. One post said, "Anyone know how to get rid of a rotten seafood smell? Help, rotten seafood." My chest tightened. I didn't say anything to Mom, though. Her expression remained unreadable, calm as ever. Dad finally called again. This time, he didn't sound irritated. He sounded frightened. "Edith," he said without greeting. His voice was frayed. "Something is wrong with this house." Mom turned the speaker on. Lily and I leaned in. "What's wrong, Jake?" "It smells like something died in the walls."
But we checked.
"There's nothing. No mice, no rats, no mold. We've cleaned every surface. Twice." In the background, Sabrina gagged loudly. "Tell her," she shrieked. "Tell her the smell is moving. It's not even in the same room every day." Dad lowered his voice. "Do you know anything about this? Did something happen before you left?" Mom pressed her lips together thoughtfully. "Nothing happened, Jake," she said. "Nothing at all." Her voice was honey-sweet, deceptively soft. I felt a shiver crawl up my spine. Not because she was lying, but because she was doing it so beautifully. Dad muttered a curse. "We called exterminators. They tore open the ventilation system. They set off gas canisters. We had to leave for 2 nights. A beat. It's worse now." Sabrina wailed something unintelligible. Then, with a sudden crash, she shouted so loud we all heard it clearly. "This is your ex-wife's curse, Jake." I know she did something. Mom raised her eyebrows, amused. Dad continued, exhausted. "We even replaced the carpets, Edith. Do you know what those cost? Thousands." Mom kept her face perfectly neutral. "I'm sorry, Jake. That sounds awful." "It is awful," Sabrina screamed in the background. "Your old house is haunted." Mom smirked. Not enough for him to hear it, but enough for me to see it. Dad hung up shortly after, frustrated and helpless. And Mom, for the first time since the divorce, actually laughed. A small, short laugh, but a real one. Haunted, she murmured. If only it were that simple. By week 3, the house had become infamous in the neighborhood. Mrs. Carmichael from next door called Lily, who told me later, "Claire, they're calling it the rot house." I blinked. What? They say people can smell it from the sidewalk.
Part of me felt sorry for Dad.
A smaller part. A much smaller part. People stopped visiting. The mailman refused to deliver packages to the porch. The gardener quit. A repairman who came to look at the furnace walked out mid-job, gagging. Dad tried to downplay it, but word spread like wildfire. Sabrina posted nothing for days. Then, finally, one bitter update. Never trust an old house. Never trust an old woman either. I showed Mom. Her eyebrow twitched, barely. "She's learning," Mom whispered. "Just not fast enough." Dad's financial troubles hit soon after. You see, keeping up a multi-million-dollar home was expensive on a normal day. On a day when you had to replace carpets, repaint walls, hire specialists, fumigate multiple times, and still couldn't breathe indoors, it became impossible. Mom, Lily, and I sat at our small rented townhouse kitchen table when Dad called again. This time, he sounded almost broken. "Edith, the bank wants proof the house is habitable before they approve my refinancing." Mom sipped her tea. "That seems reasonable." "It isn't habitable," he burst out. "No one can stay inside more than an hour without getting sick." Mom exhaled softly. "That must be very frustrating." "Frustrating?" Sabrina screeched in the background. "Your ex-wife is a witch." Mom tilted her head. "I never knew she liked mythology." Dad ignored that. "Edith, please," he said, voice cracking a little. "Do you know anything about this? Did something, anything, get left behind?" Mom paused. A long, slow pause. "Jake," she said finally, "all I left behind was the life you ended." He had no answer to that. He hung up soon after. Mom looked at us, her face serene. But behind that serenity, I could see something shifting, growing, sharpening. Not bitterness. Not cruelty. Justice. A quiet, deliberate justice she never got the chance to practice during her marriage. A month into Dad and Sabrina's nightmare, they decided to sell the house. They cut the price by half. No one came. Word had spread. The house was cursed, ruined, unlivable. Realtors refused to list it. One of them even told Sabrina on the phone, "Ma'am, we don't do haunted seafood properties." Sabrina, apparently, threw the phone at the wall. Dad called Mom again. This time, he didn't sound angry. He sounded defeated. "Edith, we can't sell it. We can't live in it. We need to move, but we can't afford it." Mom nodded sympathetically, though her eyes glittered with something unspoken. "I'm sorry to hear that, Jake." He swallowed hard. "Do you miss the house?" Mom took a breath. Then she delivered a performance worthy of an award. "Oh, Jake, I miss it terribly." Lily's eyes widened. Mine did too. Mom placed a soft tremor into her voice. "I've been miserable without it. You know how much I loved that home. If I could have it back, even in the state it's in, I'd take it." Dad inhaled sharply. Would you want to buy it?" Mom kept her voice light. "Well, I couldn't buy it for what it used to be worth. Not in its current condition." He rushed to respond. Of course. How much could you offer?" Mom paused, as though she was carefully calculating. She already knew. "I could maybe manage 1/10 of its former value." There was silence. A long, raw silence. Then,
Done.
"Just sign today." Mom smiled. Not triumphantly. Not smugly. Just calmly. "I'll have my lawyer look over the papers." The moment she hung up, Lily gasped. "Mom, did you plan this from the beginning?" Mom only said, "Your father taught me many things. But the one lesson he never learned is this." She leaned back, eyes shining. "You never push a loyal woman to her limits. Because once she stops loving you, she starts thinking." A week later, the moving trucks came for Dad and Sabrina. They looked relieved, overjoyed, to leave the cursed house behind. Mom drove by quietly, watching them from a distance. And then, like the universe was savoring its punchline, Lily and I saw the movers carrying out the curtain rods. Every single one. Mom didn't blink, didn't smile, didn't gloat. She simply said, "Good. They'll need them." And she drove away.
Calm.
Radiant, unburdened, a woman who had taken back her life and left her betrayer with the consequences of his choices. If revenge has a sound, it's quiet. It doesn't roar. It doesn't scream. It doesn't announce itself. Sometimes, it simply clicks shut, like the front door of a house that once rejected you and now, finally, welcomes you home. That's what it felt like when Mom reclaimed the house. But to understand the magnitude of that moment, you need to know what the days leading up to it were like. The call that ended Jake's pride. I have tried several times to replay this part of the story. Jake hadn't spoken to my mother in weeks. Not since she left the house quietly, lawfully, heartbreakingly. Not since he and Sabrina moved in with their expensive perfumes and their smug little smiles. And then one evening, after their world had rotted from the inside out, he called. Mom put him on speaker so I could hear. She didn't say a word. She just sat on the edge of her bed, fingers curled to her lap, eyes calm in that terrifying way a woman gets when she is finished being afraid. "Edith," Jake said, his voice brittle. "We need to talk about the house." She said nothing. "The situation has gotten worse," he went on. "The odor, well, it's unbearable. Sabrina and I haven't been able to stay there. We've tried absolutely everything. Contractors, exterminators, carpet replacements. You wouldn't believe the expenses." Mom smiled, that small, dangerous smile that had returned to her lips these days. "What do you want, Jake?" He cleared his throat. We are considering selling the house." "Good luck," Mom said dryly. Silence. Then, "Well, no one wants it. The realtors won't list it anymore. We've dropped the price 50% and still." "That's unfortunate," Mom murmured. He hesitated. And then the words slipped out, the words she'd been waiting for. "Would you be interested in taking it back? If you still want it?" Mom leaned back on her pillows, her expression unreadable. "I thought you said your lawyer ensured I'd never see a penny from that house," she said softly. "Why would I want it?" "Because it's yours," Jake snapped. "It's been your home for 37 years. And honestly," his breath hitched, "we can't afford to keep it anymore." There it was. The collapse. The ruin. The consequence. Mom let him sit in that humiliation for several long seconds. Then, calmly, "I'll take it." Jake exhaled in relief, so loud it was almost embarrassing. "I knew you'd come to your senses. And listen, I'll make you an incredible deal. 1/10 of the original value. I just need your signature today so the bank stops chasing." "I'll sign," Mom said. I stared at her. 1/10. I mouthed. She winked. Jake mistook that dangerous silence for acceptance. "Great," he said quickly. "I'll send the papers now. Sabrina and I will be out within the week." "You do that," Mom replied. She ended the call. Then she lay back on her bed
And laughed.
Not a bitter laugh. Not a broken laugh.
A release.
A freedom. A victory. The day Mom got the keys back, she asked me to come with her. We stood outside the house. The house Jake stole. The house Sabrina walked into like she earned it. The house my mother spent decades holding together. Mom took a long breath. "This place thought it lost me," she whispered. "But I'm the one who created its soul." She unlocked the door. The smell was faint, not the choking, horrifying odor it had been before. They had clearly tried everything to remove it, but the house still remembered. Jake had moved out only 2 days earlier, and the place was a graveyard of their arrogance. Half-painted walls, ripped carpet corners, abandoned boxes, rotting fruit in the kitchen, a perfume bottle smashed near the bathroom door, scratch marks on the hall wall from furniture they'd dragged out in a hurry. My mother walked slowly through each room, her fingers grazing the door frames, the rails, the walls she once painted with her own hands. "This house survived them," she said quietly. She walked to the windows, pulled the curtains, and smiled. Because the only thing missing was the curtain rods. The very curtain rods the movers had taken. The ones filled with shrimp and caviar. The revenge that started everything was ending with poetic symmetry. Mom didn't move back into it right away. She wasn't reclaiming the house because she needed a roof. She was reclaiming it because it was hers. But she also knew something Jake never did. A house is not just a structure. A house carries memory, trauma,
Joy. Loss.
rebirth. So instead of living in it, she transformed it. First, she cleaned it. Every room, every wall, every vent, every corner. Not angrily, not resentfully, but with a kind of reverence, like she was washing away the last fingerprints of betrayal. Then she renovated what she'd always wanted to fix. The scratched floors? Replaced. The old guest bathroom? Remodeled. The kitchen? She finally gave herself the island she'd once begged Jake for. Then she painted. Soft white, warm gold, muted blue, colors that breathed instead of suffocated. And then she did the most important thing of all. She locked the master bedroom, the room Jake had defiled, and she never opened it again. That room would remain empty, a tomb. The rest of the house? She filled it with light. Mom didn't tell me everything immediately, but bits and pieces reached us through mutual acquaintances. After losing the house, they rented a small, depressing apartment. The walls were peeling. The neighbors were loud. The plumbing didn't work. It was a humiliating downgrade from their multi-million-dollar home. Sabrina quit her job. Apparently, house stress was too much for her. But Jake's money wasn't enough to cover both their lives anymore. They fought constantly. Screaming matches in the hallway. Nasty posts on social media. Doors slamming at midnight. Jake's law firm heard about the house scandal. Clients pulled away. Partners whispered. Colleagues joked behind his back. His reputation?
Shattered.
And then, the final blow. Sabrina left him. Not dramatically. Just a note on the table. I didn't sign up for this kind of life. She took her clothes. She took the good plates. She took the last fragments of his dignity. Jake spiraled.
Debt. Shame.
Loneliness. A reputation in ruins. A future that looked nothing like the one he had betrayed Mom to chase. One evening, about a month after Mom had finished renovating the house, she sat on the front porch with a cup of tea, watching the sunset. I sat beside her. "Do you regret anything?" I asked softly. She sipped her tea. "I regret trusting a man who didn't deserve me," she said. "But I don't regret the revenge." She turned to me, eyes calm, steady. "You know what the real revenge was?" she asked. "Getting the house back?
No.
Seeing Jake ruined?
No.
Then what?" She smiled gently. "He lost me," she whispered. "And I found myself." The house glowed in the golden light behind her. Beautiful. Reborn. Hers. Jake could keep his shame. Mom had reclaimed her life. Revenge had done its work. Jake and Sabrina had lost their grip, their comfort, their pride. But for Mom, the story was only beginning. After the house was fully reclaimed, Mom began inviting us back, not just to visit, but to live fully in the space she had fought to restore. I watched her transform the house into more than just a home. The dining room, once a stage for Jake's dominance, became our sanctuary. We shared laughter, homework sessions, and quiet dinners there. The kitchen, once a battlefield of unacknowledged labor, became her canvas. She cooked with love, experimenting with new recipes, teaching us not just how to cook, but how to create and enjoy life. The living room, where Jake had once flaunted his authority, became our hub for family movie nights, reading, and storytelling. The house no longer held echoes of betrayal. It held echoes of us, our resilience, our laughter, and our memories. Mom wasn't just restoring walls and furniture. She was restoring her life and our family. Mom herself changed in ways that were subtle but undeniable. Her posture, once weighed down by betrayal, was now upright and confident. Her eyes, once haunted, now held a steady calm. Her laughter returned, full and unrestrained. a sound I hadn't heard in years. She began reconnecting with friends she had lost touch with, joining clubs, volunteering, and exploring hobbies she had never dared to pursue while trapped in a marriage of obligation. But the most significant transformation was her mindset. She no longer measured herself by the whims of a man who didn't value her. She measured herself by her own courage, her own achievements, and her own happiness. Even though Mom didn't actively plot Jake and Sabrina's downfall, the consequences of their choices unfolded naturally. Jake's career, once pristine, was tarnished. Clients who once trusted him now avoided him. Partners whispered behind his back. The man who had manipulated his way into luxury now faced professional isolation. Sabrina, who had believed she had everything, soon realized she had nothing. Without Jake's influence, her social standing evaporated. Friends drifted away. The charm that had drawn her to a life of luxury proved useless in reality. Financial ruin finally caught up with them. High rent, unpaid bills, and the impossibility of selling the rotting house forced Jake to borrow heavily, debt that would haunt him for years. The ironic twist? The house they had tormented and disrespected became Mom's greatest tool of justice. She had paid them nothing to teach them the lesson of their own arrogance. Every failed attempt to erase the evidence of her revenge, every day of their frustration and humiliation became a quiet, personal victory for her. As her daughter, watching Mom navigate this period was a revelation. I saw firsthand how a person could endure betrayal, heartbreak, and loss, and yet emerge stronger, wiser, and more formidable. I realized revenge alone could never be the end. The true triumph lay in reclaiming life, dignity, and purpose. Mom taught me that you don't need to crush someone with rage. You don't need to shout for justice to be heard. Sometimes living fully, thriving quietly, and reclaiming your own space is the most devastating revenge of all. Months later, I saw Jake one last time, a shadow of the man who once ruled the house and our lives. He approached Mom with a tentative smile, hope in his eyes. "Edith, I've learned my lesson. I want to make amends." Mom looked at him calmly.
No, Jake.
"The lesson is yours, not mine. I reclaimed what I lost, and I reclaimed myself. That's enough." He left quietly, defeated, understanding for the first time that power taken through betrayal could never hold against integrity, resilience, and self-respect. And in that moment, the story came full circle. Mom wasn't just victorious in reclaiming a house. She was victorious in reclaiming her life, her happiness, her family, her dignity. And for me, her daughter, witnessing it all was a lesson I would carry forever. Strength isn't about revenge alone. Strength is about rising, rebuilding, and refusing to let betrayal define you. Watching Mom in those months was an education in quiet power. She laughed without fear. She celebrated small victories without arrogance. She built her life with intention. I often sat beside her on the porch, sipping tea, watching her interact with neighbors, friends, and even strangers. Everyone seemed drawn to her calm authority, the kind that doesn't demand respect but commands it anyway. She taught me something vital. You don't need to chase those who left you. You need to rise higher than the people who thought they could keep you down. And the best part? Mom's strength had a ripple effect. I began to see it in myself. I learned to speak my mind. I learned to stand up for what I deserved. I learned that even in betrayal, there was an opportunity to grow, to flourish, to live fully.